Smith.
It's quite an interesting debate for me, this one, when we talk about a football regulator, because in all honesty, when I first heard about it, I didn't really want one. I didn't believe in one from an ideological perspective or why we need to regulate sports at all. I always thought the Football Association should be doing this, but I think we've seen certainly in recent weeks, but really over quite a sustained period of time, that they simply have not done their job with this. Whether that's the Football Association, the Premier League, the EFL and so on. And that is why I think today we've got some proposals that actually I feel that I can certainly support, and I think that strike actually a very good balance. And I pay tribute to the Minister for the work he's done on that, and the Honourable Member who did such a fantastic report in the first place here. So talking of the FA Cup, I'm another one of those who's very angry that the replays have been scrapped. I remember growing up, and you always used to dream of lifting the FA Cup at Wembley, and you'd watch them in the morning with the buses arriving, and it was a whole day event. You'd have the terrible cup final songs, you'd have the story of the non-league clubs in the early rounds. That's what it's all about, really. And I think the diminishing pull of the FA Cup for many of the teams at the top, I think, has been very sad over the years, but it's still very special for many of our smaller clubs. And we just heard about Kendal Town. We have Worksop Town in my constituency. They made the first round of the FA Cup for the first time in a very long time this season. They played Stockport County in the first round, and did manage to get an equaliser. They let a few more goals in after that, unfortunately, and never got the replay. But that was a special moment, and that is something that many people will remember for the rest of their lives. So I don't get some stick, I will mention the other football clubs in my constituency, so I don't get a lot of angry emails. So we're also very proud to have Retford United, Retford FC, Harworth Colliery and SJR Worksop as well. In terms of licensing agreements for clubs, I think I'm hoping that these are not too onerous. They don't place too much of an unfair burden, particularly on the smaller clubs. And it is those smaller clubs that I'm thinking of, the ones who maybe can't afford to employ those extra members of staff, or maybe will struggle with some of the extra bureaucracy. So I think giving them some time to do that, making sure we don't make any unreasonable demands, we don't have that mission creep, we don't have that almost public sector style equality, diversity targets and requirements and endless things that we don't actually need in football. So I'm very much in favour of this light touch regulation. And I don't want to be putting our teams at a competitive disadvantage to other teams in Europe. And as has been said, the Premier League does do a lot of wonderful things. I've been one of its harshest critics over the years in terms of, I think, as a Notts County fan. I can't see us ever winning the Premier League as it stands now. I mean, in fairness, we never won the old First Division either. In fact, we were, I think, we were the founder member of the Premier League when it first came to fruition. Yeah. So we're the only club that founded the Premier League that has never actually been a member of the Premier League since Luton Town got back there. So I was heartened to hear what the Secretary of State has actually been saying today. We've had the situation with Gateshead this week, who very sadly haven't been able to take part in the National League playoffs, and we look at some of the requirements of the EFL. Now, this has been going on for many, many years. I've remembered when you've had champions of the conference who've been told that they cannot get promoted, and this is it's happened for many years. Sutton United, who went up not too long ago, had a very, very sustainable business model with a 3G pitch, and they weren't allowed to go up with that. I think they spent about £500,000 getting rid of that. They're second from bottom at the moment and may go back there. Yet at the same time, we will have teams playing on artificial pitches, and I think there is a bit of a competition issue that's there. Worksop Town actually had one of these pitches. It's really, really helped locally in terms of making the club sustainable. So I think where we actually can help here is that we actually talk about that competition issue. We have better relationships between the Premier League, the EFL and the National League, and that is something I think a regulator can really, really make a good contribution to. Wouldn't be the first time government has stepped in. I remember the Taylor report at the time, and what we did with Stadia has been a huge improvement in safety, in attendances have gone up. Bring your family without some of the fear that used to be there in the 1980s. But as a Notts County fan, I suppose I did have a bit of an interest in the 3 up, 3 down from the National League, as we did spend 4 years in there, so I will declare a bit of an interest. Likewise on the fit and proper test, we've also been victim in the past where the fit and proper test simply has not been fit and proper itself, and we've ended up with owners who've not had the best wishes of the club at heart. Thankfully we have excellent owners now, but this is the kind of thing that we can help them to get right. What we don't want, of course, we don't want the mission creep. We don't want to be interfering with things about VAR or things to do with players or fiddling with the club. We're not there to be micromanagers, and I think that would be a terrible shame if that did happen. Also, I'm glad the Secretary of State mentioned about excessive costs, trying to avoid that, trying to make sure that this is very focused on what the mission of this bill is. And again, I think the balance is absolutely right on that, so I can congratulate the department on their work there. Likewise, football's not the banking industry. I know there are some things that we can actually take there as lessons, but this is an act about football, and we need to keep it about football, and we need to realise the unique position of football in our society. Likewise, we are not Germany. Our leagues are much deeper. We have more of them. The ownership structures are very difficult. So I think it would be wrong to copy another model there. Also, involving fans. Great, I was a member of a supporters trust. Again, supporters trust around Notts County. I think, again, Stockport, I think, is another great example of where you had a supporters trust. Supporters generally don't always have the finances, and sometimes that can cause its own problems. But I think I will finish, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I think I will quote one of Ronald Reagan's most famous quotes. He said the most terrifying words in the English language were, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Well, I think in this case we don't need to be terrified. These are very sensible proposals. I'm looking forward to it progressing. I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about them, but certainly from what I can see, I think this is positive for the game, and I congratulate the Minister for that today.